everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
And I'm Sarah. How are you?
Oh, mate. I mean, my heart has just about got back after the West Ham-Liverpool game.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just Arsenal that can, get points in the last dying moments of injury
I
time.
almost turned that game off. I was like, I will not do this again. Not a second week in a row, Arsenal. Were you able to watch the NWSL games? They started very late your time.
Yeah, they did. So I did watch them. I watched one of them live, and then I watched one on catch-up. And the one I watched live, spoiler alert, I wish I hadn't bothered.
Yeah, you and me both.
But I watched the one on catch-up, and they, you know what? They brought it. You know, we've got some results.
And spoiler alert, obviously, one of these NWSL games is going to be Game of the Week. We got so much. We're going to talk NWSL, WSL, Champions League, and we're going to just briefly touch on some international news that needs to be talked about because next week is international break. But nevertheless, before we talk real football, we must get into fantasy football, which, listen, okay, so last week we didn't have the results. This week we have last week's results, but not this week's results. So I guess at this point, it seems like we're always just going to be like a week delayed in terms of the updates we're giving, but I'm excited to give these updates.
So Sarah set herself so many reminders, so many things to change her team. And then it turns out you didn't. You made one change.
I made such a big deal of it. I literally scheduled a tweet from our WOSO show account and tagged myself in it because I was like, if you're not going to do this when the calendar reminder goes off, maybe you'll do it when you get the Twitter reminder. Let me tell you, I sat down, I set my lineup, I felt good about everything. And then when I went to go check it, it wasn't the lineup that I had set. I was bragging. I texted you. I was like, I set my lineup. I felt good.
Yeah. You were so in it. You were living yourself.
I forgot to hit save changes.
You were giving yourself flowers and then
so proud.
Nothing.
I looked at my score and I was like, listen, the score, I still did well. I beat you, which I'm very happy about. And then, but yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into logistics. I think I made one change, hit save, and then made a bunch of others and forgot to hit save. So for this week, I made a lot of changes. I got into it. I dropped some players. I picked some players up. Nobody told me that if I made 2 moves in the week, I get deducted 5 points. So I made my second move and it was like, you're going to be subtracted 5 points for making, and I was like, well, that doesn't seem fair, but I made some good moves, everybody. I'm really excited to see what I got this week. I'm very excited about it.
So let's move on from the fantasy to the reality and let's talk about our game of the week and all things NWSL playoffs. Whoop, whoop.
2 games this past weekend. There were 2 quarterfinal games. And really quickly, for anybody hearing that and wondering why there were only 2 quarterfinal games, because there should be 4 quarterfinal games. This is the structure of the playoffs. Portland and San Diego were the 1 and 2 seed. They got byes. So we had the remaining 4 teams playing each other. And alas, we have our semifinalists. OL Reign took down Angel City 1-0. And Gotham FC beat North Carolina 2-0. So we were 1 for 2 of our predictions. We got Gotham right, but we did not expect a poor performance from Angel City, which we'll come on to that.
Spoiler alert, I thought both teams were poor, but we will come on to that when we...
Yeah, well, so I'm glad you said that, because, I'm excited to talk about these, and we're going to get deeper into the North Carolina Gotham game, because that's our game of the week. But I just have to say, overall, I was a bit disappointed in the quality of these matches, dare I say.
It was poor. There's no 2 ways about it. I'm like... This is where they're supposed to be the most hyped because they have the chance to actually be declared champions. They're not tin plate shield winners. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know if it's tired legs. I don't know if it's just they're done. Their brain is out for international. But I was a bit.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I do think it was a combination of the teams that we got in the matchups, OL Reign versus Angel City is not as exciting of a matchup as other things could be, as, Angel City versus Portland, as we saw the weekend before. I think it's a combination of that and tired legs. But shout out to Ariel, my friend. We went to go to a bar to watch the OL Reign Angel City game because neither of us thought to check online to see where it was playing because it's the playoffs. So I was like, obviously it's going to be on TV. So let's go to a bar. We arrive at the bar and hits both of us that neither of us actually know what channel the game is on. So we go to Google and then we're like, oh my God. I start going on a rampage, just like a rant, because we realize that it's only playing on Paramount Plus. And I'm just sitting there like fuming, like this is a playoff game. It should be on Paramount. It should not be on Paramount Plus. This should be on TV. So we had to, change our plans, go watch it at home. But then it was such a boring game that it maybe it was good that wasn't the product they put out on TV.
I was going to say, like, if that's the one that you're, like, getting bars to play, they're going to be like, and you go next week and be like, can we have this game? You're like, no!
Yeah. Anyways, we don't mean to trash it. We'll get into the game specifically. But, the one that was less disappointing was North Carolina hosting Gotham FC. Gotham took it 2-0. Listen. Gotham FC finished last place last season, and now they are in the semifinals for the second time ever in this team's history to make the league semifinal playoffs. The last time was 2013, everybody. Per Dan Laletta, the legend himself, he tweeted this very fun fact. The last time that the Gotham franchise scored a playoff goal was Heather O'Reilly in the 2009 WPS, so not even NWSL, final against LA Soul, who no longer exist.
No.
The current Gotham player, McCall Zerboni, started in that game for LA Soul, as did Marta.
Wow. That is some history, man. That is, wow.
So if anything, so many reasons why this was a huge win for Gotham, including the fact that they've extended Ali Krieger's career by at least one more game. But also, this is huge for this franchise that, frankly, like, they've been a team in contention for the playoffs. It's not like they've always been so down and out, but they were down and out last year. And this is not a team, a franchise that's seen historied success. And they're taking on a team that has really only seen a lot of historied success.
Yeah, no, we talked about it last week that North Carolina, for me, has always been one of those teams that you say in the same breath as OL Reign and Portland. They're the team that always seems to come out on top and, always up there, Shield winners or up there for, champions. So you feel it. So, yeah, it was interesting.
One of the benefits that I think we've gotten from the Challenge Cup, one of the few things that has come out of the Challenge Cup that's positive, is that now that the Challenge Cup is divided into divisions, and these divisions are regional, so there's the West, there's the East, teams are getting to know each other a little bit better. So Gotham is developing rivalries with the Washington Spirit, with North Carolina Courage, because they actually play each other more in the season, and it makes these matchups way more fun and way more exciting. This was the 5th matchup between these two teams this year. That's including, obviously, regular season and the Challenge Cup. And of the 4 played before this one, Gotham won 2, and the other 2 ended in draws. All of those games, except for one, were only 1-goal matches. So we knew this was going to be a battle.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be tight. It was going to be exciting. Both teams have a lot to play for. I feel like Gotham, we said it last week, had more of a personal thing. Both.
With Ali Krieger.
Kriegs, they don't want her to leave. Basically, what they're doing is they're going to keep winning because then she can never retire.
Yeah, I think that can't be underestimated, that when you have somebody like that, and we sang her praises on the last episode, so we're not going to do it again, but when you have somebody like that is so special to the team, they do want to rally around her and give her what she deserves. And that is potentially a title. And they're 1 game away from getting to go to San Diego to play in that championship. And to all my New York-based friends who are listening to this, I sincerely think that you should consider going to San Diego and meeting me there for the game if Gotham is in it. And that's all I'll say there. That's
your plea. But no, you see it, and you can see it on Gotham social media. They're like, nope, she's still not done.
Yeah. Their circle after the game was so cute. It was just them screaming for Krieger. It's really beautiful to watch, and I think OL was just as excited to do that for Rapinoe as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So should we actually talk about the game?
Let's get
into it. First thing we have to talk about with this game is the news that came out of Carolina just before the match, which is Carolyn has the dreaded 3 initials, did it in the last game of regular season, it seems. And so that is her out for a year minimum now. And you felt it. You felt it in the way they played. You felt it in the way their energy and everything else. There was just something missing, and the thing that was missing was Carolyn.
I totally agree. I mean, when she went down in that Washington game, I think we all were very worried that it was the ACL, and to just see that confirmation, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to think about that for her because she's such a young star, and it's also a massive loss for North Carolina. And it's always a bummer when a team's, arguably key player goes down right before playoffs, because it just doesn't feel right. This isn't the team that actually got to the playoffs because this very key person is missing. And I think you nailed it. That's exactly what we saw from them on the field, is that there was that piece missing. Gotham controlled the pace of this game. It was very transitional. It was faster than North Carolina would have wanted to play based on their style historically. And I think that's the biggest key here in Gotham's victory, is that they were able to control the pace of this game. And Gotham knows how to play transitional, fast soccer. And North Carolina, by the end of that game, their defense looked absolutely exhausted. There was one time where they were trying to clear the ball, and it just looked like they had just run a marathon. They could barely even get that ball out of the box. They were so tired. Gotham had just run them ragged. And I genuinely think that's the main key for Gotham winning this game.
That's the thing. When you've got tired legs, and then you've got the speed demon that is Lynn Williams, coming at you. They were done. North Carolina, unfortunately, were done going into this game. They put up a valiant effort, I thought. They did try, but once they realised that Gotham were pacing them out, it was...
A big key, I think, was... Gotham went up 1-0 right before halftime, and we can talk about that goal. Delaney Sheehan with one of the oddest goals, and it was almost like a moment that fell flat, because if you score to go up 1-0 in a playoff game right before halftime, you would expect the team to erupt. And I think everybody was just a little confused, because it looked like a shot. She took a touch. It kind of got away from her. It was a little too far from her. And she went to just go get her toe on it and poke it across the face of the goal to see if anybody else could get a foot on it. And Casey Murphy, the goalkeeper, ends up kind of being shielded by her own defense, and it slots in the back post. And I think going into halftime up 1-0 is actually what was able to carry Gotham through this game, because this would have been a totally different second half if these teams had come out 0-0.
For sure. We say that all the time, though, when it comes to those last minute goals, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we talk about some stuff that happened in WSL, is if you go that in with that bounce of the fact you're in, you're one up, you've got more options to play. You can do the boring thing of just park the bus and block everything because you're going through and they're not, or you can do what Gotham did, which is give the fire to go out and try and get more and to seal in that victory.
And I think there's two key pieces to say here, to point out. It's that one, we already touched on Caroline. North Carolina were creating chances. They really were. But when your main creator is missing from your team, it throws everything off. So yes, they were still able to control the ball. Yes, they were still able to advance the ball. There wasn't a lot happening in the 18, though, because when your main creator is gone, it gets very difficult to actually make dangerous opportunities. And then on the flip side of that, something that Gotham's done all year, which, Midge Purse was so funny after the game. She was asked about playing defense as a forward, because that's what I'm alluding to, is something that Gotham's done all year is their forwards play such good defense. And Midge Purse after the game was kind of like, it's a little more defensive responsibility than I personally like as a forward, but it works. And what we saw in the second half was Lynn Williams doing Lynn Williams things and Midge Purse tracking back. And, part of what makes Lynn so special is, she hasn't scored, I think, in 6 games now, but that doesn't mean that she's not contributing in other ways. And part of that is on the other side of the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, can we talk about the Ryan goal? Because that is it was beautiful, and that is a great example of what you're talking about with Lynn Williams, with the unselfishness, with the foresight to see, do you know what, my teammate's got a better shot than I do, and just to switch hit it. And the Ryan goal was just beautiful, and that's what I mean by speed demon. Lynn Williams since coming to Gotham, has just become such a fabulous player. Like, she already was, but Gotham have given her this freedom, and this, like, the coaches have just gone, you do you. We know you can do things, so you go do the things we know you can do. And Lynn Williams has gone, all right, I'll do that.
She's always been such a star in the league, and I think coming to Gotham may have also given her the confidence that she can carry a team. She's been on a bunch of teams that are also stacked. And then she came to Gotham and she had to carry. She had to put them on her back. And until, Esther Gonzalez came and now Lynn can, and, Midge came back from injury. And now finally Lynn can just work her magic down the sideline and lay a ball off, just like you were saying. And I totally agree with that. Yasmin Ryan goal was just quintessential Lynn Williams, working on defense, picking a pocket, and then dumping it off. And I want to give props to Yasmin Ryan, such a young star who's playing really, I think, underrated football for this Gotham squad, who are missing so many midfielders, and she stepped up so big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was just the undoing. I mean, it was an injury time goal, but North Carolina were done way before then.
They really were. And I guess just to finish on North Carolina, I think we've already mentioned how tired they were. You could see in their mentality, they had the urgency to try to get that goal back, but in their energy in the execution, in what they could actually physically do on the field, it just wasn't there. And I think it's something that sometimes you can just feel in those last 10 minutes. It's either about to pop off and something might happen, or it's just going to die. And it just kind of died for North Carolina. And a disappointing way to go out. But they are the Challenge Cup winners. They can go home happy. And hopefully Caroline can recover in time to make a difference in their next season.
Now to the other game, which was OL Reign versus Angel City. And if you haven't picked up on our tone from before, you'll realise that this is the game I watched live, and this is the one I have regrets about watching live.
Yeah, truly a snooze fest, or what we here on the Women's Soccer Show call a damp squib. That's what this was. That's really what this was. I think the best part of this game was Pino and Fishlock being interviewed after the game together, because I just truly want like a movie of these two interacting. They're so funny. And I could just go on a rant about what a star Jess Fishlock is, and the only reason she's not a household name is because she didn't play for a major national team.
I mean, she's not a household name to you. Like, over in the UK, she's an absolute legend.
Well, that's what I mean by, like, worldwide household name, I suppose.
But, yeah, so, as you said, this could have been Pino's last game.
Could have been. And she played all 90. And I guess the big question here is, should Megan Rapinoe be playing all 90? We know that it could potentially be her last game, so emotionally, you want her to be in there for all 90. But also, tactically, was that a good move for OL Reign?
No, it was not. Look, I love me some Pino. I do. I love everything that she's done, and it's fine. But the thing is, she has now really grounded herself into being an impact player, whether that's you play her at the start and she's impacting to set you up, and then you take her off, or you bring her on when you're flagging and you need someone that's going to do the things that Pino does. I get that you're like, oh, we want to get as much out of her as we can because this is definitely her last, run, but you have to think about the team over an individual. I am going to use that very tired phrase, there is no I in team. And it's true. I get it, but this is not some, send-off game. This is not some friendly that means nothing, isn't going to have any impact on the team once she's gone. If they win the championship, that's going to be huge for OL Reign as a whole. So no, long answer, Pino should not have been playing all 90 minutes. And when they play their next game, I hope that they're realise that was a bit stupid, and they'll bring her back to play the impact player that she is.
So I think what was most surprising to me about this game is not how OL Reign played, because OL Reign played how OL Reign play, but it was Angel City and how they played. And they're coming off this screaming performance where they just absolutely destroyed Portland. And they seemed to just really fall flat in this game. OL Reign won this game 1-0. Angel City, they were creating some chances, but not really. There were really hardly any great opportunities on either side of the ball in this game, and it just seemed like they were squandered. So what happened here?
I genuinely don't know. I just think, like, again, tiredness hitting. We're towards the end of a quite long season. You know, we've had a World Cup in the middle of it, and some of their key players were key in their national teams. But it just seemed that they used all of their energy to beat to beat Portland to get into the playoffs, that they were like, now I don't know what we can do.
Yeah, I can't really put my finger on it either. All I can really say is that watching the game, it just felt like neither team actually wanted to take control of the game. Both teams wanted the other to, like, maintain possession, and they wanted to play the counter. But when you have two teams who don't actually want control of the ball, what are we doing? And that's kind of seemingly what it was to me. But you touched on being tired. So let's look ahead, because this is very weird right now, because we just had these quarterfinal games. We now have semifinal matchups set. Portland is hosting Gotham, and San Diego is hosting Seattle. But we have to wait a whole 2 weeks for another playoff game, because this coming weekend is international break, and then we'll pick up where we left off with NWSL. And this is different. So I think we need to talk about how this is going to affect teams. It's very common to talk about, you know, is it actually beneficial to get the bye? If you're San Diego or if you're Portland, is it beneficial? You'll get rest, but it might throw off your momentum and your rhythm. Or do you want to be a team that plays all the way through so you don't have your momentum and your rhythm thrown off, but then again, you might be a little tired? So now what will happen is Portland and San Diego, who got the byes, it will be a full 3 weeks between the final NWSL regular season game and their first playoff game. Versus for Gotham and OL, they will have a full 2 weeks in between playoff game, quarterfinal, and semifinal. Who do you think that this benefits, or do you think it just makes it neutral?
I think it's weird because of the international break. So the bye week normally is what you want. I personally think. I think it gives you a chance to rest certain players. It helps you can see what the teams that you're likely to play are doing and how they're playing, and you can then build your tactics around that. Because as we saw, if we all picked Angel City to go through, so you would maybe have, without the bye, would you have based your tactics on that you're going to play Angel City again, and it just would have been the thing. The problem is in this time round, you've got international break in the middle. So there are certain players that you're like, yeah, we've rested, but they're not going to be rested because they're going to be playing with their respective
Well, I assume that
teams.
They'll have minute restrictions, but yes.
You assume, but you don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it's not even just US international break. There's, you know, other international breaks going and travel and everything else. So I think any benefit you would have had from the bye is slightly negated outside of your control. That being said, 3 weeks without gameplay, that's what's rough, is the fact that there's having a rest and then there's losing everything. So I do think it's now made it a bit more like, yeah, the benefit's been negated and it's now anybody's game.
Do you feel like it's neutralized? Do you think that actually teams like Gotham and OL Reign have the benefit?
No, I don't even think they have because of this international break.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. Predictions. First game, Portland hosting Gotham FC. Allie.
Gotham take it 2-1.
Wow. It is a little hard for me to see Gotham winning this game, I just have to say. Portland can be so dominant. They did just get absolutely obliterated. So we know that they have a weakness, but I do think Portland play Gotham well. They match up well against Gotham. So I'm gonna give it to Portland. I'm gonna go 2-1. All right. San Diego versus OL Reign. San Diego hosting, of course. Allie.
San Diego are going to take it. I think it's going to be 1-0. I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be more interesting than the semi-final.
I think this will be a feisty matchup. Like, emotionally, I think this will be a feisty one to watch.
It absolutely will. But the thing is, like, makes me smart is the fact that Laura Harvey and Casey Stoney are very similar managers and they are very similar people. So I think it's just going to be that really interesting. They came up the ranks at Arsenal at the same time and stuff like that, and they have that like with each other. But I think Stoney will just edge it.
I think it'll be a fun matchup, but I do think that it won't be close. I've seen San Diego come together in a way that I don't believe I've really seen OL put together a full, complete game like that in a very long time. So I give it to San Diego. I'm going almost like I'm going 2-0. I almost said 3-0. What the heck? 3-0 San Diego. Let's go around the world, around the world, around the world.
To France, after a great win this week in the Champions League, Paris FC managed to snag another victory to keep the pressure on Lyon. Lyon also secured the win, but it's still just a 2-goal differential between these two.
Over to Germany, the top of the table clash did not disappoint. Hoffenheim held a 2-goal lead through most of the game. However, Janssen and Pop both scored in the second half to end the game in a draw. This means that there is still only 2 points in it at the top.
To Scotland, and Glasgow is blue. Rangers beat their city rivals Celtic 2-1 to take the top spot. Glasgow City, who are the other ones that are closing in the ranks, had their game postponed due to a storm that hit Northern Europe. But again, do not sleep on this league.
And finally, over to Spain. Real Madrid faced their first defeat of the season on Sunday after succumbing to Levante. This has given Barcelona some breathing room as they are still maintaining a perfect start. As an interesting note, places 2, 3, and 4 are all held by Madrid-based teams.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
And over to the WSL. For this episode, we're not going to spend all that much time on the WSL, but don't you worry, we're going to spend a lot of time on it as we always do throughout the entire season. But I think that the main thing we both, through the score lines of this weekend, want to talk about, and while we have touched on it a lot, I don't think we've exhausted it, and I think the question mark is still there because Villa lost to Tottenham 4-2. So we have to ask and really dive in, because we've touched on it, but we haven't really gotten to dive into this. What is going on at Villa? Is there something going on at Villa?
There has to be. Like, I'm sorry, but you've got... I'm going to liken them to Man City of past in the fact that they've got these great players on paper, right? And they start games well. You know, you look at the Man United game, they went up first. You look at this game, they managed to draw the foul, get a pen, convert it within the first 5 minutes, right? So they start well. And then they just drop off and get absolutely decimated. And they've got one of the brightest stars in goalkeeping. You know, Van Domselaar was the one that people were fighting over getting. And so the fact that, and then when Villa announced it, we were like, what a piece of business Villa have done. And she is getting let down by her defenders time and time and time and again. And they're making her look amateur. So there is something not right. And I don't know if it is a gelling problem. I don't know if it is an attitude problem. I don't know if it is a managerial problem. But they need to fix something because they are 4 for 4 in losses, which no one saw coming. And the game after international break is against Chelsea, which means they could be 5 for 5, which puts them in dire straits.
It really does. I mean, yeah, we're not here to solve Carla Ward's problems because, you know, she'll be able to solve them more than we will. But from the outside looking in, it's funny you say we don't really know what this is, but they go up 1-0. And it's funny that they're playing Tottenham in this game because you liken them to a City of the past. I actually liken them to what Tottenham has really been, which is a team with so much potential and some stars across the lineup. And yet, why are they sitting bottom to middle of the table? It makes no sense. Tottenham, I'm going to give them the credit that they deserve because as much as a blunder as this was for Villa, Tottenham were the side that looked like a team. Tottenham were the side that looked like they were gelling. And historically, Tottenham have been a team where you look at them and you're like, well, they're not a team. You know, this is pieces of a puzzle, but they don't fit together. And now that's what Villa is. And Tottenham actually look fantastic. And yeah, they're letting in a lot of goals, but they've scored the most goals of any team in the league so far. They've yet to keep a clean sheet, but they're scoring a lot. And we knew that would happen for Tottenham. But the difference for Tottenham this year is that they're cohesive. The way they play together, the way they play in the attacking third, and most importantly, is cohesive. And that's the difference. And you can see that in how Villa play in the attacking third. I can almost liken it to when we watched the U.S. in the World Cup up until the Sweden game. It was like somebody was on the ball and being like, okay, now what? And that shouldn't be happening at this level. We should know where everybody is going to be, right? You should know where your next pass is. And yet Villa, they look lost in the attacking third. They look like, I don't know where my teammate is going to be, or I don't know what to do with the ball, or there are no options here. And it just slows down. The only times where it doesn't slow down for Villa in the attacking third is when it's individual greatness, when Ebony Salmon runs with the ball, when Adriana Leon won the penalty kick. And otherwise, it's just not cohesive. In the attacking third, they can hold the ball in the midfield, but it's that attacking third, and it does not click.
No, I do think they are missing Kenza Dali. Kenza Dali picked up a muscle strain in the World Cup, and it's still, a niggle. Carla Ward said she should be back for the Chelsea game, and the Daly Dali connection was what made Villa so great last season.
They'll also have Hansen back for the Chelsea game.
They will have Hansen back. I think that was huge. I think Hansen's suspension has ruined the start of Villa. And I know you can't base a whole team on just one player.
Yeah, it's not just that, but it has had an impact, and probably emotionally too.
Yeah, but Hansen is such a key player, and especially defensively. And they've had to throw in people like Anna Patton, who may not quite have clicked with, Corsi and Turner. They've got the new player, which is Parker, and Parker letting a howler to allow Neville to equalise right at the break. And we talked about it before, about Gotham getting the goal at the break. That's what happened with Tottenham. Neville smashed it home right on the half-time whistle. And so Villa have gone from, yay, we're 1-0 up, to, okay, now we're 1-1. Whereas Spurs have the opposite momentum, being like, oh God, we were 1-0 down, to, we're back in. Like, we've got 45 minutes to turn it around. And then, you know what? I don't like praising Spurs players, but Martha Thomas, my goodness. Like, this just shows how underutilised she was at Man United, because she said it herself, she wasn't happy. She's gone to someone where a coach does like her and does allow her to do things, and she got a hat-trick. And her third goal, that long-range chip, was just beautiful, because she drew Van Domselaar into the wrong position and just cheekily went behind and completely caught all of the Villa defence on the wrong foot just to get that beautiful third goal.
So I worry about Carla Ward, and when people, because I do feel, especially in England, people start calling for the head coach's job very early on. So I worry for Carla Ward with this 0-4 start and Chelsea coming up. I worry how much more time she is going to get. I think she deserves a lot more time, because there are new pieces to this puzzle. There is a chance that things can click later on. What do you think? Will she last this whole season?
So I personally think she'll get till Christmas, because then that will allow for, like we said, the Daly Dali partnership. That allows Hansen back. That allows for more time to grow and stuff like that. So personally, I would give her till Christmas. And if they are like picking the points back up and they're, we're seeing the potential, then she'll stay the whole season. My fear, because like you said, we are very quick to chop the heads off coaches very quickly, is if she loses to Chelsea and it's 5-5, she's done.
Well, but that's really likely. I mean, a lot of teams lose to Chelsea.
Well, I suppose it depends on the manner they lose to Chelsea. If it's a bit like Tottenham losing to Chelsea at the beginning of the season where it was a super close 2-1, could have gone either way, then she'll stay on. But if they get absolutely battered and it's 5-0 against Chelsea, she's gone because they're going on. Their ambitions was top 4 to try and push Champions League places, to do what Man United did. And that's gone. That has gone. Our season is so short, you cannot lose 4 games and be pushing.
I worry for Villa. I really do.
And then on to Champions League. Oh, it was so good and exciting and crazy and chaotic and everything we love about.
It's really usually not this exciting this early on. We usually don't cover Champions League until later on this pod, but we got to touch on some things.
Yeah, so we've got to talk about it. So we have had the final round of qualifiers. So for those that are not sure, basically, in order to get to Champions League proper, there is the first round of qualifiers, which is for teams that finished third, and other teams, in the UK's case, it's the team that finished third, and there are other teams that have to come in. You then play those games and then you go into the second round of qualifiers where you play, that brings in teams that finished second and also a couple of ones that won their leagues, which we'll get onto. And then once you've done that, you get into the pot for the group stage and it's Champions League proper.
So let's do it. We got to first talk about Paris FC because I'm so proud of this team. We've been following the French League for a while now on this podcast and a while before the podcast started as well. And I put something out on socials about this, but I'll say it here. People very much overlook the French League and don't want to watch it because it's, generally speaking, historically, a 2-team race. It's between PSG and Lyon. And before that, it was really just Lyon, honestly. And PSG entered the race very quickly, and then it was really just those 2 teams. But Paris FC has been slowly and steadily, year after year, climbing up the ranks. And at first, they're climbing, and then they're competing for the 3rd spot, but it's definitely not in competition to compete for the second 2. And we've just slowly seen them build. And this is what we're going to continue to see happen across the world. We're seeing it start to happen in Spain with Barcelona historically just having a hold on it. We will start to see people contend for that. We're going to start to see this more and more. This is the level, like we talk about internationally, the gap's closing. The gap is closing in club as well. And to see Paris FC do this, which I realize I haven't even said what they did yet. Okay, so Paris FC advance ahead of Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg, who were in the Champions League final last year, are now out. And Paris FC advanced. And to see them do this, it was so perfect for this moment of women's soccer that we're in.
Never mind that. So they in the first round they played Arsenal and knocked Arsenal out of the first round, and Arsenal was semi-finalists last year. So they managed to do that, and then they played Wolfsburg. First leg against Wolfsburg, it was a 3-3, absolute thriller, crazy game. And then this second game, they came in and they made Wolfsburg like amateurs. They won 2-0 and absolutely hammered Wolfsburg. So they are the little team that could.
All right, from one French team to the other, from Paris FC to PSG. PSG knocks off United. And United, for their first time in the Champions League, didn't last that long. I'm sorry, United fans. That's brutal.
It is brutal, A pettier person would have said that was karma coming at them. But I'm not that petty. No.
What would it have been karma for?
Because when Arsenal got knocked out, there was a lot of Man United fans that were like, oh, Russo left us for Champions League football and look what happened. And then they get knocked out at a similar level. So I was like, karma hit you quick.
Well, I think what it really speaks to is, let's talk about the level. We all want to talk about the level of every league. Where is the WSL if 2 of 3 teams are out this early?
Honestly, I think the problem is I don't think it was a great achievement for Man United to get to where they did, but clearly they were not good enough. They did not have Champions League level players, and they will grow and they will think, and they have definitely recruited well this time round. Get them to set in. If they can finish at a similar time, they may progress further next year. But They gave it really as good as they got in the home leg, got it to 1-1, gave them the chance. But then as soon as they went away to Paris, it just fell to pieces. So
the only thing that made more noise than United being booted out of the Champions League were head coach Mark Skinner's comments after they fell out of the Champions League. So first, before we comment on them, Allie, anybody who didn't see them, what did Mark Skinner say? Because this made a lot of noise.
Yeah, so Mark Skinner in the press conference after the PSG game was basically like, we need to reform how Champions League qualifiers go because there are better teams that have been knocked out in this stage than that have progressed into the group stage. And then some other stupidness.
What was the other stupidness?
Just because it was just bitter. That's the thing.
I want to hear your thoughts. Frankly, I think he has a larger point that has some merit, that maybe this structure for Champions League isn't the best. I personally have a lot of thoughts on how Champions League are structured, and I'll say it again. I truly believe that Champions League for women's soccer should include more than just Europe. So I have big thoughts on this, but I do disagree with when and where he chose to make this comments because it really just doesn't look good. And Emma Hayes had to kind of like swoop in and defend, almost like try to right the wrong, if you will.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's like if he'd said that at like after the draw, or if he'd said that before they'd played and got knocked out, then I could understand it. But the fact is, it just came off as bitter and boo-hoo. We got knocked out. And it's like, you're playing Champions League. The clue is in the title. You are playing some of the best teams in the world. You want to be the best, you got to play the best. We say that all the time. And you know what? You got your backside handed to you by PSG. Come back stronger. We look at Arsenal and Chelsea, who had catastrophes year prior Champions League, and they came back and became semi-finalists. Like, it's doable. I do want to talk about what Emma Hayes said because I think it was very smart and very clever. She said, I think that it's ignorant and arrogant all at once for us to say that. Says Hayes, whose side was one of the only 4 teams with Barcelona, Lyon and Bayern Munich not forced to go through qualifying. So you look at it, you look at Roma, who dominated the Italian league, had to go through this qualifying system. There are teams that won the Swedish league that had to go through this qualifying system. Ajax, who won the Dutch league, had to go through this process. Like, only 4 teams are guaranteed to get into Champions League proper, and that is by winning the French, Spanish, English and German leagues, right? So yeah, there are going to be some shocks and some awes and stuff like that. Glasgow City won the Scottish league. They had to go through this process. So change the process. I get you may want to do that, but don't come at us and say there are worse teams that have got through without having to go through this process, because only 4 of arguably some of the best teams in women's football got a bye straight through to the groups.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel a lot like if you get put in the group of death in a World Cup and you get knocked out and you start complaining about it. And it's like, look, well, if you really had aspirations to be in the final, you're going to have to go through these teams at a certain point anyways. So go through them and, put on your big boy, big girl pants and just do it.
Basically, yes.
All right. So the draw has been made. Group stage play for Champions League officially begins on November 14th, everybody. So keep that in mind. And finally, international break is this week and weekend, and we'll be covering it next week on the pod, so we're very excited. But there's some news coming out of the international scene that is very timely now, and next week we're going to want to touch on these games. So let's cover a couple things, because I'm always excited when we start to talk international.
Yes, I'm less so, but okay.
Let's do it, though.
Okay, so one of the big statements we'll touch on briefly is Christine Sinclair is hanging up her boots for international play. And that was a sound of a million Canadian hearts breaking.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to say for this other than legend, top goal scorer. I'm happy to see that she's hanging them up internationally, but we'll get to see her for another year in the club scene. I think that'll be really great. She'll get her year of appreciation. It would have felt too weird if she just announced it now and we all kind of like waved goodbye in one playoff game in Portland and that was it. So I'm happy that she's not gone completely, but very sad. Canadian international fans, we're thinking about you.
It was probably one of the classiest, like, retirement things, because just put up, like, this little video of boots hanging from a goalpost, and we were like, Sink, no!
You know, it's funny, I saw that on Instagram, but it was late at night, and it was, like, one of the last things I saw before I just closed my eyes and went to bed, and I did have the fleeting thought of, like, that seems like a retirement post, and then immediately the following thought was, no, Sink's never going to retire. She's one of those players that's going to play forever. Okay, good night. And then I woke up to the news and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. I mean, Christine Sinclair, everybody bows at your feet. You're one of those players that just like you transcend allegiances and there's really no higher compliment.
No. So from some sad news to some enraging news, the next thing we have to talk about international is the news that is coming out of Jamaica.
Yeah, I think it's really important to touch on because you know, we talked a lot during the World Cup and during our coverage in the World Cup, so many federations and teams fighting with their federations and their battles. And there was just so much to touch on. I think we covered every team's battle with their federation because every team had their own individual battle. And for this one, we're going to circle back to the story of Jamaica and the Reggae Girls and their long battle with the JFF, the Jamaican Football Federation. And just a brief reminder for everybody, the Reggae Girls made it to the World Cup, physically made it to the World Cup because of outside funding. They had help from Bob Marley's daughter, and they had a GoFundMe, and that's how they raised money for plane tickets, for hotel accommodations, to physically be there, even though they had already qualified. So that's some brief background. And to say that they have experienced a lack of support from the federation just across the board is an understatement of the year. And news broke that now all 23 players who were at the World Cup, they've released a statement that says the entire World Cup roster will not be participating in upcoming October international window games, which, by the way, are World Cup qualifying games for the next World Cup. And the statement shared that the players, quote, have yet to receive full and correct payments for their historical performances. They are historical performances at the World Cup and numerous outstanding bonuses for qualifying matches in the summer of 2022. They also noted that they've dealt with a lack of communication, poor organization, and poor management from the JFF. They went on to say that, quote, while this has been one of the hardest decisions we have had to make, we feel it is necessary to take such drastic stance to put an end to the constant mistreatment we receive from the Jamaican Football Federation.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we touched on this like back in the World Cup ones, which is when the FIFA was like, oh, we're going to pay the players directly. No, we're going to pay it to the federations, but ensure that they get their money. And we said this ain't going to work because if they haven't given them their money now, they ain't going to give them it then. And we're just seeing that now, that these players, and then the federation have sort of hit back saying, well, if you don't play, if you're called up, you're going to get fined. So it's so stupid because it's basically saying we're not playing because you've not paid us, so we're going to take more money from you for not playing because you've not paid us.
What is there to say that we haven't already said, Allie? The fact that this continues to happen, this kind of thing continues to go on in these federations, and these people in charge in federations feel that they can get away with things like this. This is, you know, the genuine abuse of power that we talk about a lot. And this is the reality across the board in women's soccer internationally and clubs. So we stand with you, Reggae Girls, and for everybody listening, we're going to, you know, continue to keep you updated on this story. But to look ahead, international break is this coming week. The U.S. have 2 games against Colombia that we'll cover on next week's episode. England have 2 games against Belgium that we'll cover on next week's episode, and much more, because, you know, we don't decide which games are exciting. We just cover them.
So that is it from us here at the Women's Soccer Show. Make sure you check out our Patreon. A new Fits and Kits will be up there by the time this drops, so check that out. Me and Chris had a great time discussing WSL third kits and the abomination that they are.
Also news in 10 every week.
Yeah, news in 10 every week, so if you want even more content, make sure you check out our Patreon. However, for the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Ali.
I've been Sarah. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.